Hey folks, David from Default Sound here, and in this video I'm going to give you a walkthrough of our Sunday Bass MainStage template. When you think about MainStage, you might mostly think about processing and creating keyboard sounds, and MainStage is great at that, but MainStage also includes some really great plugins for processing live audio. So that's what Sunday Bass does. Sunday Bass is designed to process your real electric bass signal, quarter-inch cable into an audio interface, and then the audio interface is dumping the audio into MainStage, where Sunday Bass is processing it. Sunday Bass is designed from the ground up, and it is all you need to get awesome bass sounds live. There's amp modeling, effects modeling, and also 4 meat and potato synth bass sounds available on every patch. So if you'd like to do a hybrid rig where you have synth bass off to the side and jump back and forth between the two, you can definitely do that all within Sunday Bass. You can dial in your sounds in advance, or you can tweak them on the fly using a MIDI controller, a MIDI foot switch, or our included Touch Osc template, which lets you control every component of the Sunday Bass template directly from your iPhone, your iPad, your tablet, or your other smart device. Sunday Bass also includes 20 presets to help you get started and learn a little of the potential of the template. So what I'd like to do now is turn around and give you an overview of the features of Sunday Bass, teach you how to set it up, and demonstrate those 20 presets for you. Let's take a look. All right, this is Sunday Bass. I'm going to start off by doing a little overview of the layout. We'll talk about a few logistics, and then we'll dig into demoing the 20 presets for you. But to start off, this is Sunday Bass. So I'll start off with the basics. You have the output section here where you can have an overall master volume. There's a mono button if you want to run your setup in mono, which most of the time, if you're playing bass, you probably are. But if you want to run it in stereo, then you get some really great stereo effects from the upper end when you're using some of these effects. Tap tempo is next to that. Below that, you have a tuner and a panic button. This cuts all MIDI. Resets everything. If you have a stuck MIDI note on your keyboard or if things start acting weird, that's what the panic button is for. Right above that, you have your patch list. This just gives you an overview of all of the patches that you have over in your patch list here on the left. So when you're in perform mode, this is how you can tell where you're at in your patch list. And you've got next and previous patch buttons. Below the output section, we have the 4 synth bass sounds. Now these sounds are available to you on every patch that comes in Sunday Bass. So you have an art bass sound, a sub bass sound, a pluck bass sound, and a saw bass sound. And then you have a modifier button for each of the 4 sounds that just changes the character or brings in an effect. And you have a little MIDI keyboard below there with the sustain pedal and mod wheel that's representative of these 4 synth bass sounds. Now I'm going to start up here at the top with the amp section. So you have a 6-knob amplifier on each patch in Sunday Bass, and the left 3 knobs are the EQ. The right 3 knobs give you compression, gain, and master volume. And then you have a toggle to turn the compressor on or off. You can also toggle the EQ on or off. To the left of the amp on screen, you have a blend between the amp sound and a DI or a direct box sound. The direct box is super modern, super smooth, tons and tons of low end, and the amp is generally going to give you more character, more stuff in the upper mids, and then high frequencies so that your bass is going to cut through the mix. So on all these patches that come with Sunday Bass, we've blended between the two, all sorts of different ways to get different sounds, but there's all sorts of different tones available using the amp and DI blend. And then below that you have an XY pad that's actually functioning as an XZ pad, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm going to open up the amp plugin that we're using, and this XY pad here correlates to the position of the mic on the amp cabinet. So as you move it down, it's getting closer, and as you move it up, it's getting further away from the mic, and as you go to the left, it's moving to left on the cab and right. Now this is inverse because we're looking at it. But so to the left is further off the speaker to the side, and then to the right is closer to center. So there's all sorts of different sounds you get in there using the XY pad. So we made use of that. And then you have 6 effect sections. So each one is labeled at the top left what it is, and you have a toggle on off. A couple of them have multiple stages or different. So you got 2 drives, 2 delays, 2 different kinds of modifiers here, modulation. And then some of them have blends. You've got all sorts of controls. Makes it really easy for you to dial in all sorts of different sounds. And so different presets have different sounds dialed in. In just a minute, I'll talk to you about how you can save presets of your own, because you're definitely going to want to explore, create tones of your own. But first, I just want to talk about MIDI and about audio. So like I said in the intro to this video, you just need an audio interface with a 1/4" input to connect into MainStage. And if your interface has a gain knob, that's very helpful, because it's going to be very important that you don't send your signal into MainStage too hot or too loud. You're going to get digital distortion or clipping if the signal is coming in too hot. So you want to spend some time with your interface and dial in just the right amount of gain on the interface so that it's coming into MainStage. And you want to see no more than maybe -8, -6, -4 in here is probably okay. I'm talking about this clip level indicator on the individual channel strip down at the bottom right corner. But less than that is really kind of okay as well, and you can gain it up at the soundboard. It gives you more clean headroom, and you can apply these effects without worrying about things getting too loud and distorting. You see, as I'm really digging in, I'm getting up to about -5. Any higher than that, and you just run the risk of starting to clip. But if you don't hear it, if it sounds clean to you, then that's okay. If your interface doesn't have a gain knob, some don't, then you might play around with a volume knob on your bass guitar. You might have to bring that knob down a little bit so that you're not clipping when you come into MainStage. So once you've connected your interface to MainStage, and make sure you have any necessary drivers installed, you're just going to go to MainStage Audio Preferences here, and just designate audio input as your interface. So I'm using an M-Audio Mobile Pre, which is a USB interface, and I've just got that selected. And then you can use the interface as your audio output as well, which is what I do when I'm playing Sunday Bass Live. But for at home, I'm just using the built-in output because I'm using a pair of headphones, studio monitors. So that's how you designate your audio interface. And you want to make sure, I'll go back here real quick, go to Advanced Settings. You want to try and keep latency as minimal as possible. Since this is a real instrument, you don't want to feel disconnected from the instrument. You don't want there to be as much latency. So what might be tolerable for synth playing might not be as tolerable for bass playing. So if the latency or the lag is too big, then you might try decreasing your I/O buffer size. So the smaller your buffer size, the lower your latency. And you can see right now we have 14 milliseconds of output latency, which to me feels just fine. It's not an issue, but if your buffer were higher, then you'd probably start to feel a little disconnected. So the caveat to that is the smaller your buffer size, the more you increase CPU strain and usage. So if you have an older system or you don't have the greatest hardware specs, you might start to run into issues. So you just have to kind of do the trade-off there a little bit both directions. Okay, so before I get into actually talking about the effects and showing you how to save presets and things like that, I want to talk about controlling the template in real time. So Sunday Bass comes with a Touch OSC template. At the time of this video, Touch OSC is $5 in the App Store and the Google Play Store. You can get it on most Android devices and all iOS devices running more recent versions of iOS, so your iPhone or your iPad. And it is a MIDI control app that you can connect to your computer. If you have an iOS device, you can connect over Wi-Fi or USB. If you have an Android device, then you can only connect over Wi-Fi, but that generally works okay. And what they've actually done is created a template that gives you hands-on control of everything on screen. So this is a really inexpensive way to have total control of the template when you're dialing sounds in advance. And then also to be able to tweak things on the fly. You don't need to purchase a big MIDI controller. You can just use your phone if you'd like. Obviously, you can also connect any physical MIDI control surface to Sunday Bass. If you have a keyboard that you're going to use for the synth bass sounds that has knobs and faders, then you could connect those as well. I'll show you how to do that in a minute, but for now I just want to talk really briefly about Touch OSC. So you download Touch OSC on your smart device. It's $5 or so, and then you need to take the Touch OSC file that comes with your download. It says Touch OSC in the name, and you need to transfer that over to your phone. And there's going to be a link in the description to this video to the manufacturer of Touch OSC's website, where they talk about how you can transfer the file from your computer to your phone or your smart device. Once you've got that template running, then you need to have the Touch OSC Bridge app running on your computer. And so here I'm going to go on my phone. You should be able to see on screen here. I have the Sunday Bass Touch OSC layout selected because I've already added it to my phone. And real quickly, I'll just show you. You have to download the Touch OSC Editor app on your computer, which is free from the folks that made Touch OSC. There's a link to that in the description. And then you load the template into the Editor app on your computer. And then on your phone, you go to Add. And on the Editor app on your computer, you press Sync. And then it'll show up as a host here. And then you'll just transfer it over. If that doesn't make perfect sense, then head over to the website for Touch OSC because they have really thorough documentation. Anyways, I've got the layout loaded in here. And so you can see now on my phone, I've got the layout pulled up. But right now, it's not going to communicate with Sunday Bass because I don't have the Bridge app open yet. So I'm going to go to Spotlight. And I've already downloaded this on my computer. And I'm just going to select Touch OSC Bridge. I just started to search for it and it showed up. If it doesn't show up for you, then you can do a real Finder search. Now the only way you know it's running is this little B in a square right here, Touch OSC Bridge. It doesn't open up in a window or anything. It just kind of runs in the background. And so now I can change patches in Sunday Bass right from my iPhone, which is really cool. It's seamless. There's no delay that's really noticeable to me that would keep me from being comfortable using this live. And so I've already gone over the layout on screen for Sunday Bass, but I real quickly want to go over the Touch OSC template as well before I get into demonstrating these sounds. So the first page is kind of the overview page of Touch OSC, and I'm talking about the template on my phone now. So you have the toggle buttons for each section of the effects. So you can turn on and off overdrives, turn on and off fuzz, etc. You have next and previous patch, and then you have control over the faders for the synth-based sounds, and you also have the effects toggles. So that's the first page. This is generally where I hang out when I'm actually performing because I can quickly toggle effects on or off if I need to, but I don't have more on screen than I need, and I'm able to change patches easily using the next and previous patch. Second tab is the amp and output tab. So you have the amp section mirrored on screen here. You have the amp DI blend, you have the EQ, the compressor, and all of that is available to you on the second tab. And then you have the master volume, you have the mono button, panic, tuner, and tap. And then the next 6 tabs just represent each effects section one at a time. So it very obviously visually mirrors what you're seeing on screen. So this is the drive section, the fuzz section, the octave section, the delay section, the mod section, and the reverb section. And so the first tab, again, is just your highlights, your overview. Second section is the amp and your output section. And then the next 6 tabs are each of the 6 effects sections that are included in Sunday Bass. A couple of notes about Touch OSC. It does give you feedback. MainStage sends signal to Touch OSC. You can see here on screen on my computer, the drive section knobs and the drive blend have been sent over to Touch OSC. So when I change patches, I've got different presets pulled up. All of those changes come over as well. The one note that I will make is that the toggles for the individual effects, because they exist in 2 places, so they exist here on the first page, and then this button also exists on the third page. At times, I've run into a slight disconnect between the two visually in Touch OSC. the drive will be in the correct state on screen on my computer, but from time to time, you can see here, stage 1 on the highlights page is highlighted, but it is not highlighted in the actual drive section page. So I found that just tapping it once and then tapping it again resets. So just something to be mindful of, not really an issue for live performance, but just a little quirk that is inherent to how Touch OSC communicates with MainStage. So that's an overview of how Touch OSC is set up. Really quickly, I just wanted to demonstrate how you could assign anything on screen to a different MIDI control surface of your choice. So I'm going to go here to Layout Mode in MainStage, and let's say that I wanted to reassign the output volume. So I'm going to select the output volume knob, and you can see right now it is assigned to Touch OSC. And I'm just going to press the Assign button. Then I'm going to move the physical control that I want to assign that control to. This happens to be a fader on my MIDI keyboard. And when you see that happening, that's how you know that you're good to go. You depress Assign, and there you go. Before you make these types of changes to the layout, I recommend just going up to File and Save As, so that, and then save it as something other than the original name, which is just Sunday Bass default sound. I've got demo in there because that's what I'm using it for, but just title it Sunday Bass 2 or whatever that makes sense for you, so you know that it's not the original. Just keep a master copy somewhere on your hard drive so that if things get weird or you just want to go back and reference the original, you can always go back there and see how that is set up. The last thing I'm going to show you is how I would recommend putting together your set list. So I would open up this concert and I would just start by finding the basic sounds that I wanted to use. And if you want to just use the presets, then you can drag and drop them wherever you'd like by just clicking and dragging like so. You can drag them out of this set. There's 4 sets by different types of sounds. You could just stick them wherever you want, and that's great. If you want to just create a copy of the template every time you get ready to go and then just move patches around, then that's fine. But if you want to have the originals in place and then actually just make copies of them for your live performances, then that can be a great way to go. So I'm going to grab this Modern DI Crunch patch, and I'm just going to hit Command-C and then Command-V on my keyboard. And that copies and pastes the patch. Then I'm going to drag it up here on its own. So now I've got the original here in the basics set, but I also have a copy right here. So now let's say that I wanted to go ahead and turn the stage 2 drive on. Okay, but I want to filter it a little bit less. I want to make that a little bit more low mid. Then I'm going to go to the amp section, and I'm going to go ahead and adjust the blend between the amp and the DI to give me a little bit more of that amp character. All right, so I've dialed this sound in how I would like it to be. And so really quickly, I want to show you how you can save this patch as a preset so that when you come back to it, all of the knob settings, the toggle states, the amp settings will be saved with the patch. So the only thing that you need to do to just bake all of these settings into a patch is just save your concert file before changing patches. So go up to File and hit Save. When you do that and then you change patches, so we'll go back to, this is the original patch we copied, and then we'll go up to the patch we just saved, and you can see that those changes we made have been saved. So you could double click on this and rename it whatever you wanted. Best patch. And then you could just do that for every bass tone that you'd like to be in your set list. So you could do one bass tone for the entire set. You could do multiple tones per song. You're not limited by anything other than your creativity. These patches don't really use too many CPU resources. They do use a little bit of memory, but I have a 2012 MacBook Pro with 8 GB of RAM, and I'm able to run this without any latency issues and without any CPU issues, even with 20 or 30 patches in the concert at a time. So that's a little bit about how to save patches and dial sounds in how you would like. If you get a sound that you really like and then you want to save it and then come back to it later or have it available in another Sunday Bass concert, just hit Command E while you have the patch selected. And that opens up this export dialog, and you just search for audio music apps on your computer. And then within audio music apps, there's a folder called patches. You just want to save it to the instrument patches folder, and you can actually create subfolders within that instrument patches folder if you'd like. So you might create one and just name it Sunday Bass. So we're just going to save best patch to the Sunday Bass folder. And then I'm going to delete it out of the concert by just hitting delete. Then if I wanted to bring that back in later, or if this were another concert, I would just hit the settings cog at the top right corner of the patch list, choose load patch, and that's going to go here because this is the last place I was. But if it didn't take you there automatically, you could just search again for audio music apps, and it'll bring up that folder for you. It might take my computer a second here, so I'm not going to demonstrate this right now. But once you have audio music apps, you might just drag it over to your favorites bar so that you can get there very quickly. Anyways, you just select the best patch here and hit import. And then MainStage is going to load it right back in, and it's just going to stick it below whatever patch you had selected. So here it is, just like we left it. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just go through all 20 presets and demonstrate how they sound very quickly for you. And I'm going to demonstrate a few of the modifier controls. I'll bring some effects in and out so you can hear how it sounds on each patch. And I'm also going to demonstrate the 4 synth bass sounds that are included in Sunday Bass. Here we go. All right, now I'm going to demonstrate the 4 meat and potatoes synth bass sounds that are included in the template. I'm going to use Touch OSC to bring them up here. You've got a lot of volume on tap because I wanted you to have the ability to level match your electric bass. So just be mindful that you might not need to go all the way up to have a good amount of volume. All of these sounds do have some filter built into the mod wheel as well. Here's the art bass. This is a polyphonic ARP and bass sound, so you can do octaves. If you'd like. And then you can toggle the ARP off and it sounds like this. Bring the volume back up here. It's got some initial attack and then swells back in. Next, there's a really nice sub bass. This will definitely push your subwoofers. This is a monophonic synth bass, and when you turn the glide on, you'll get more pitch glide in between the notes. Next, we've got a super fat Pluck bass. It's got a nice bit of sub in it, as well as some texture up on the high end. And the modifier brings in a delay. Lastly, we've got a saw bass that has a really nice sidechain. The sidechain's on by default, but you can turn it off with a modifier. Here's what it sounds like without sidechain. Alright, so there's all 20 presets and the 4 synth bass sounds included in Sunday Bass. Check out the other videos about Sunday Bass if you'd like to hear more of this template in action. If you have any questions, leave a comment, send us an email, info@defaultsound.com. I hope that you'll consider making Sunday Bass a part of your live bass rig. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.